Welcome to Issues and Answers with your host Diane Kinderwater. Issues and Answers is presented as a public service to inform, educate, and better the lives of New Mexicans. And now, Issues and Answers with your host Diane Kinderwater.
Welcome to the program. I'm Diane Kinderwater. Other than this show, Issues and Answers, where do you receive your information about the community? We know we give it to you here on this show on KCHF TV, but has it changed throughout the years? I know in my day I would get it from ABC, NBC, CBS, PBS, I'll throw that in there, as well as CNN. But we know times have changed. And on the show today we're going to talk about the importance of communicating and how the advances in digital technology has certainly made a huge difference. I studied communication at the University of Wisconsin back in the day, and I remember one of my professors saying, the thing that's going to change is the communication revolution. I thought, what is he talking about, communication? We know the Industrial Revolution changed our world, but he said, yeah, there's going to be a communication revolution, and we are well into that revolution. So on the show today, I'm going to have Tom Garrity, who is the president of the Garrity Group, share his experience and how he communicates the message and how that has changed in his business and how marketing and sales and news has all changed throughout the years because of the computer. But we know it started back in the 1880s, and I'll tell you when it started right after this. Stay with us.
The National Education Association of New Mexico, a union of teachers and school staff, believes every child deserves to learn at a school that inspires their imagination, cultivates their curiosity, and ensures a fulfilling life. Public schools should provide all our students with small class sizes and one-on-one attention. NEA New Mexico asks you to join us so together we can end the teacher and staff shortage and invest in our public education system once and for all. Sponsored by NEA New Mexico.
Welcome back to the show. My guest guessed it. In May 24th of 1984, electronic dots and dashes tapped out by the telegraph machine started with the Morse code. So that's our first electronic information. Was the first social media was back in 1844, May 24th, if you want the day. And again, I found this on the internet. Can you believe everything you find on the internet? I'm not sure, but Tom Garrity with the Garrity Group, go with it.
Absolutely. How are you, Diane? It's
Great,
good to be here. Thank you.
Well, other than aging myself by saying back in my day, I would watch ABC, NBC, CBS. My mom would make me watch PBS and PBS. I mean, now I watch PBS more now than those. But wow, Tom, things have changed.
They really have. And at University of Wisconsin, I went to school at TCU, go Frogs, and we both have had the opportunity to really kind of learn about communications from different perspectives. But the most important perspective is the school of life, because with your work in broadcast media and my work as well in various media, we've seen the industry change quite a bit. And one of the things that my firm, the Garrity Group Public Relations, does is that we really monitor how people access news and information. And we've seen how the traditional forms of media, television, newspaper, radio, have really given up a lot of ground to the digital media as far as internet news sites, social media, and for blogs.
Yeah.
And so, it's been fascinating to see, first off, how people are leaving traditional media for the digital media, but also how they are, what they trust. Because even though people are getting more news on social media than they ever have, they don't necessarily trust it. Mm-hmm. They still trust the traditional media sources for the most part.
And you do a study. You've done a study in Albuquerque to find out where they're receiving their media and how they trust it. When I found, of course, social media has been fueled by the human impulse to communicate. And the social media certainly is nurturing personal communications and connections like never before. I remember the phone. I don't know if it was like you and your family when I went off to college. Oh, we can only call maybe on Sunday night because of the long distance charge.
I actually had
ended up writing letters, right?
I had a client and a friend who said, "Oh, hey, I gotta go. I gotta get this call. They're calling long distance," and I chuckled. I go, "Oh, really? Are they charging long distance now?" And it brought back so many memories because that was what happened, right? You couldn't just pick up a phone. You had to wait until the eves and
Oh God! But handwriting back, writing a letter. I would write a letter to my father from college because couldn't make that phone call very often, and he would take a red pen, correct my misspelling and my and my structure of the letter, and send it back to me.
Whoa!
Oh yeah. Oh,
that's tough.
oh. So that has changed communication, but again, not only the news, but in the marketing. That's what we're finding. Of course, companies are reaching out to market their products is on the internet. It's so many changes.
Yeah, one of the things that we're seeing is that people want to own their own message. They want to be their own messenger, and so traditional media sources, basically fractionizing so much. A lot of industries are owning their own message as far as with their YouTube. They're creating their own narrative for their customers to really understand, and that is probably biggest thing that we've seen, because you might have, like what we've talked about Balloon Fiesta, previously. You have Balloon Fiesta that has, a lot of media coverage from outside, from all the local stations, from a lot of national media, a lot of social media influencers. But Balloon Fiesta, like any other organization, has to own its own narrative online. And so online, because really the .com or .edu or .net, whatever your website domain is, ours is that is your front door to your customers, and that's where they have a chance to learn more about you through your website than they will through various media and marketing.
So as an example, if there were bad news about a company, you see it on the news, evening news, a quick clip on it, you might see it in the paper, but then what people just go to their site and they can address it in full at that point and explain.
Correct. We would hope that it would, that organizations would. Unfortunately, the ease of technology organizations oftentimes don't want that level of accountability, which is really unfortunate. In a crisis, because we do a lot of issue management and crisis management, there are 4 audiences that need to be addressed. There are the victims, there are employees, there are customers and vendors, and then there's the media. And the level of compassion that an organization shows to the victims will really determine how quickly they're able to successfully weather that particular situation. And you just can't, organizations just can't say, oh, we care about this. They actually have to demonstrate it. That take place in a variety of different realms, as far as with name a crisis, and that people have a bad feeling about the organization. Chances are that organization was more focused on their reputation than they were about the victims or the people who were impacted as a result of that, whatever that incident was.
But you're saying, let's just say an oil spill in the Gulf Coast.
Yeah,
big, horrible oil companies. They could protect their reputation by maybe assisting the victims.
Yeah,
and I'm saying, then put it on their own website. They can't wait for NBC or CBS. They can do it themselves.
Correct.
Okay.
And that takes a certain level of transparency, because the level of trust, people are going to trust what they see on the media, traditional media, more than the actual corporate page. But there are different strategies that organizations can do in that trust. Continual feeds, showing how not necessarily their employees, it's a bonus, but how they are paying for the cleanup and how teams are involved in the cleanup. We saw that a lot with the back in the day, the Exxon Valdez, a huge oil spill up in Valdez, Alaska, and at first the organization received some criticism. Then they were also right there on the front lines, helping to clean birds, clean the shoreline, and it really had that appearance that they really do care about what happened. They're very regretful about it, and so just to present day, showing what you're doing to help the victims, and a victim is anybody who says that they are, will really help to determine how a company weathers that particular crisis or that storm.
You have a number of clients in addition to the Albuquerque International Balloon Fiesta. Let's use them. They're very popular,
Great
but also it's right out there. Regarding the internet, is it, and your other PR, public relations clients, is it their goal always to want to be on the evening news? Is that, I mean, if they want to correct something, they say, or are they respecting that, you know, these young kids, young, and I'm saying anybody under 40, they're getting everything from this. Mm-hmm. So what do you advise, or what do you see? What do the clients want? Do they want the old standby? Oh no, and I worked with state legislature, it's got to be on the front page above the fold for credibility or for anyone to notice. Well, nobody's opening the paper. They're not even looking at the front page. So that was the goal, was always front page above the fold. That's where we want to be. But
yeah, you know, it's one of the, I play a game with my clients. They don't know it's a game because it's all part of our process. But you know, I ask them, you know, what do you want the headlines to look like in 1 year, 2 years, and 5 years? And the answer to that question provides so much insight about what they view as their priorities and the messages they want to get out, that we're able at that point to say, okay, great, we know that with 1 year, you want to make sure that your name recognition is up, that you're seen as a very friendly company. Year 2, you want to show how you're getting into the community. Year 3, you're wanting to show, you know, how the world is a better place because of you. And year 4, we actually had a client tell us this, which is a good strategy. The client said, we want to have news about our acquisition to be promoted. And that gives me into a mindset saying, okay, their goal, their exit strategy is acquisition within 4 years. So how can I of these additional steps to, you know, be successful to help result in that acquisition? So yeah, it's not rocket science, but there is some strategy to it.
But are they wanting clients today, are they wanting things on the front page of the paper? Are they wanting it on the nightly news, or are they more in social media?
It depends on the client. So for our business to consumer clients, which would be like, for example, Balloon Fiesta, or some others, which I'm just not able to talk about right now. But their goal is to make that connection with the customer. So that takes research to find out what is their customer interested in. And so it might be an advertising message, it might be a social media message, it might be just a direct mail, it might be a value card, or, you know, a program. So it's really understanding who your customer is and what makes them motivated to make their buying decisions. Have some who are business to business or issue oriented or electeds, and for them it's very important to be connected to a national story or a national narrative. And so that's where you'll see a lot of the page one kind of desire, or we want to be on Oprah, or we want to be in the Wall Street Journal. And, you know, all of those take a lot of strategy, and it's sometimes you get it on the first try, sometimes it takes a couple of years to really make a meaningful impact.
But I guess, and I'm not communicating my message very well. The page one, why be on page one if nobody's reading page one?
Well, page one. And so, you know, if you are a politician, you want to be on page one because all the opinion leaders are in the news media, they're all reading the newspaper. Because, you know, a reporter, as we know, having gone into some editorial meetings as a television reporter, you have to come in with 4 or 5 different story.
Oh, we saw it on the front page of the Journal, let's do that.
Exactly, or we heard this on such and such radio.
So you're reaching
yes.
through the front page.
Yeah, and it multiplies on top of that. Yeah, absolutely.
But certainly things have changed with digital advertising. I'd say I'm looking at a study just from 2018 showing the decline in revenue. The newspapers, like $107 billion decline, TV revenue declined, $70 billion, radio, newspaper down, magazine certainly down. And of course, we see on the internet ads popping up all the time on the side of our pages, right, when you're looking at it.
Yeah, and for those have changed quite a bit, and Congress has really kind of led a lot of those changes. So what we're seeing also happen is that organizations or cause-related groups are creating Facebook groups to basically create a community where people can talk about things that are important to them. New Mexico Breastfeeding Task Force, for example, they have a huge support network throughout the state. Just connect on Facebook, and they're very secured Facebook groups to kind of share important information and share stuff that's really only important to new moms and stuff.
So that would not necessarily have to be on the front page then.
Exactly.
Just that Facebook page directs it right to the people.
Yes.
Can you give me other examples? People interested in fly fishing.
Oh, absolutely. Well, up in Colorado, for example, there's a group, a Facebook group that is just set up for people who want to climb 14ers or the 14,000-foot peaks, because that's a very limited time frame to go up and hike those mountains. So it's a lot of sharing. I'm part of a couple of different groups having to do with running and triathlon, and we all share, on Facebook groups, we share, okay, where are we going to meet for Saturday's long run, or for Saturday's long ride and Sunday's run? How are you getting from point A to point B? What races are you doing as a training?
Are there advertisers though on those pages at this point?
Not that I'm aware of, because it's really just a place. Now, if company X has, like I wear Ultra running shoes. I'm not getting paid. I just like their product. But Ultra will obviously want to make sure that people are talking about their products in these particular groups. But they're not, if I'm being paid by that particular company, I should disclose it and stuff.
No,
but there's not traditional advertising per se.
If there's a Facebook page for runners and bikers, and you have a client who is interested in marketing to them, would you not suggest somehow those groups are better than paying a lot more money to be on network news where you're reaching everybody and a few runners, but those Facebook page solely reach runners? How can they tap into that?
Yeah, so Facebook and Instagram, they have very good advertising programs where you can fine-tune that particular message. And it's not in lieu of a huge broadcast TV buy. They all have their specific goals, right? Like the Super Bowl ad, that's where you broadcast from one to reach millions, whereas social media is really more of just engaging a few to reach millions, and then the millions kind of engage. And so broadcast outreach has one purpose. It's very broad. The Facebook, social media, digital media, connecting with those customers one-on-one really brings in and personalizes that buying experience, or that experience that you're looking for that is very personalized. So they both have very different goals as far as how to really build a reputation or brand, which is the sum of all experiences that a person has with the product, how to build that brand customer base.
What would you say, Tom Garrity, president of the Garrity Group, to our viewers who are not that social media savvy? What was kind of change in just even the recent years regarding social media?
Oh, wow.
It's
just technology in general. I mean, before my dad passed, he would say, okay, don't text me anymore. And I go, why? He says, well, because I don't do text messaging. I said, I didn't think you did. He goes, oh. And he's hurt because of that fear of missing out. And so I taught him how to text, and then we would always get text messages and stuff. The same is with social media, right? We need to have someone who knows, because if we're not used to engaging, and maybe we don't want to engage. There's some people who just want to live their life and without all the digital influencers, and that's cool. But if you're interested in it, it's a great area to stay engaged with family, friends. I mean, I just had my a very high number high school reunion, and we all connected by way of Facebook and stuff. But there were some who were there at the reunion who found out about the event through word of mouth, because they're not engaged in social digital media. So,
still in this day and age, would you say Facebook is still the top? I mean, I know TikTok moved in there.
It all depends
Twitter.
On the audience. Yeah.
Okay.
So if I'm sitting down with the client and they say, take a look at our mix, so to speak, as far as how we're doing with the social media aspect and the traditional media. Facebook is definitely for engagement and conversation. TikTok is quick, flashy. How do you get your brand message across in 10 seconds? Twitter, well, Twitter is really fun because Twitter is really where the reporters all hang out. It's where a lot of conversations, begin and end in what used to be 140 characters. Now you can get more characters. But it's funny to see how Twitter has really impacted broadcast news, because it seemed as if in the past, broadcast would be, you'd have a 30-second soundbite. Not anymore. It's more like a 10, 15-second soundbite, which is equivalent to 140 characters. We see how Twitter has really impacted, and social media has impacted the traditional forms of media.
And people are just scrolling through. They're not sitting there watching a half-hour newscast or listening to the radio or hopefully watching for a half hour. But when they go to Twitter, they just scroll through it and say, oh, I got my news filled today.
And that's where when we started our conversation, and we've had the opportunity to work with we've had the opportunity to work with Google, we've had a chance to work with Facebook and Meta, we've had a chance to work with a lot of different media organizations. And really when it comes to telling your story, okay, you just want to make sure that you have a credible place, as far as like you and I have a certain level of credibility on social media. But when we ask New Mexico residents, which media they access, it's different than the media that they trust, because the social digital, people access it, but they won't necessarily trust it. And New Mexico is unique because New Mexico has really been slow to change in its use of traditional media. New Mexico still very much relies upon broadcast media, television specifically, followed by radio and television. And now internet news sites are kind of popping up into, like that number 2 spot, but those are really just another avenue for the Albuquerque Journal, for
people,
Channel 7, for 13 to reach their different audiences.
Good, excellent point on that, Tom, because through the internet, they're the traditional sites, but the mode is different. It's not on my TV set. It's not even on my anymore. It's on the phone. So traditional media now is on the phone.
Absolutely.
So they're scrolling through that, facing it.
Yeah, and the challenge for traditional media is to not lose your visitor or your guest because of having all of these pop-up windows come up. Because I know I'll see something on Twitter and I'll click because I want to see what the story is, and next thing I know,
danger, warning, Tom.
I mean, I get all these pop windows, and I'm like going, I am never going back to that website again. Or even when I go online off of my computer, I'll just visit a local TV news site. I won't mention whom, because they're all guilty. And I go onto a story, and there's a pre-roll of 15 seconds I have to sit through, and there are at least 2 or 3 pop-ups to change my settings on my computer. And I'm like going, that is not the kind of customer experience that will have me going elsewhere. And so I think media organizations as a whole need to be really sensitive that there is that fine line between, free content and fee content and how you maximize both.
And the pop-ups would be, I've seen them as well, popping up saying,
sign up for our newsletter.
But that who owns that site is being paid to have these pop-ups pop up.
Sometimes they are. Sometimes they just want to capture as much information as possible from the visitor and say, hey, sign up for our newsletter, sign up for our updates. And
so
such a headache.
How does that, Tom Garrity, work when you are searching, Googling, let's say, Aruba? I'm going to go Aruba, visiting, and then all of a sudden you're looking at sites, okay, and then you get a whole long stream of commercials regarding places to eat, places to go in that country. I mean, how do they find that out?
Well, that gets into the dark side of the internet and stuff. So
furniture as well. I was looking
furniture.
For some furniture. Okay, I thought I'm going to Google this type of bed. All of a sudden, all these ads popped up saying, "Look at my bed. Look at this bed. Look at." It's just incredible how to find out. I was clicked on one website. And
Yeah,
what's
I
in
love
it?
cookies, but that's what they are.
Oh.
They're not the cookies that I love. Which raisin, by the way, fantastic. But but cookies are the thing. Remind the internet where we visited, and it's also where other websites. So you're talking about Aruba, and then all of a sudden you're off looking for furniture. Well, chances are, while you're looking for more furniture, an ad for Aruba will show up.
Yes.
Yeah, and it's like going, whoa, it's like they're reading my mind. Well,
Yes,
they're
yes.
actually reading your cookies, but yeah.
And the cookie is the websites I visited.
Yeah, it's a signature that basically says that Tom Garrity visited this site and he has shown interest in this particular product.
YouTube, how has that changed?
YouTube has revolutionized how people can share and consume information. It used to be back in the day, you could just post a video and watch it, but not a whole lot of people would know that it was there. And now you can use different strategies with hashtags, with links from newsletters and such to really, people can post a YouTube video and they can be an expert, but nobody will know that they're an expert, but they are because they have a video, and I will come across that when I'm starting to look at how to repair something at the house or how to tie a bow tie.
It's all there.
Yeah.
I'll ask my son, can you please, who lives in a different city, can you please tell me how to do this? YouTube it, Mom. Thank you, son. But people are doing it now. They're YouTubing just to find the information they need to do basic things. It's there.
Yeah, and a lot of the smart brands are including instructions with a QR code, as far as how to set things up. So like, for example, I just recently got a streaming camera, okay, and the streaming camera for one of our clients. And as a part of the setup, they had a QR code that would take you to a YouTube page to show you how to do the setup for your live streaming camera. And so, before it would be 10 years ago, we'd go, well, when QR codes were just coming out, we're like going, how are we going to use these? But now we use QR codes in local breweries and restaurants. It was one of those products of COVID, of when we go out of the paperless kind of, how do we connect with
Hold
people?
your phone there and pay your bill.
Yeah, you can do that too.
Include the tip.
Yeah.
Your tips and your knowledge of decades of working in the media, working with public relations, and again, we take our hat off to you and your crew, Amanda Molina and the rest, for all the work you do with the Albuquerque Balloon Fiesta. But thanks for joking and sharing and looking at the revolution of communication.
Anytime, Diane. Thank you.
Ongoing. Thanks to my guest, Tom Garrity from the Garrity Group. I'm Diane Kinderwater. Make it a great week with your family. We'll see you next time. Bye-bye.
In the Army National Guard, family means everything.
Our parents, they were really supportive that all 5 of us would join. I got my education because of the Guard. I got to travel a little bit and experience a whole different culture. It helped me get my job, it helped me pay for my house. Being part-time really helped because I could have some opportunities that were in education.
Serving part-time in the Army National Guard instills pride that you and your family will share. Visit NationalGuard.com to learn more about part-time service.
Issues and Answers with your host Diane Kinderwater is presented as a public service to inform, educate, and better the lives of New Mexicans. To comment on today's program or to purchase a copy of any Issues and Answers program, visit sunbroadcasting.org or call us at 505-345-1991.